Hello my friends, welcome back to another painting tutorial. I have been away. I was away camping up in Ireland, up in County Wicklow to be exact. A beautiful spot, beautiful part of the country. If you're ever in Ireland, please do visit, it's beautiful. I'm going to paint something from there. Beautiful, beautiful landscape. There was some fantastic scenery up there. So I'm going to paint a beautiful landscape. This is my own picture that I took along the way. I went up around, where was it? Glenda Loch, up around Glenda Loch, up in County Wicklow. Beautiful part of the country, absolutely gorgeous. So I took a nice walk around the mountains and the lakes, took some photographs. I'm going to paint something really nice this week for you. Lots of greenery, hills in the distance, lots of green foliage, that kind of thing. So yeah, this is going to be fun. Something different for a change. A nice proper landscape. Proper landscape. Okay, so do join me. Do subscribe if you would like to follow me along. Something different every week, or every 2 weeks perhaps. But yeah, something different every week. So let's crack on and have a bit of fun with this. I hope you do enjoy it. I have a bigger canvas here now, so 20 by 16, because I feel to get plenty of detail in there, a bigger canvas, I think. So I'm looking forward to this, very excited. Don't go anywhere, grab your stuff if you want to follow me along. This is going to be a nice one just for learning to paint trees, bushes, grass, mountains in the distance. So let's go and try it and see how we get on. Okay, my friends, here we go. Let's have a bit of fun with this canvas. Okay, there's a reference photograph. Isn't that gorgeous? Lots of colour. I love this beautiful sienna ochre kind of colour here on the right hand side. It complements the painting nice. Lovely hills in the distance. Lots of trees in those hills. Lots of trees here. Grass, a little footpath. So I think this is going to make a really nice tutorial. So all right, I'll tell you what colours I have. Titanium white, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow pale, phaylo blue, cerulean blue, magenta, burnt umber, lamp black, and alizarin crimson. There's one other colour I might need, and that is burnt sienna. A little burnt sienna, I think, will do no harm at all. Let's put some burnt sienna down here. And this is going to be fun, I think. A lot of mixture of colours. I want to create a lot of depth in this, a lot of distance, okay? So I have a quick sketch on my canvas. I primed this once, by the way, with this white undercoat. I rubbed it back with some sandpaper, very lightly. That's all I did, okay? Let's go. A nice neutral sky. I'm going to dampen my brush. Also, I have some thinners, which is turpentine with a little linseed oil, okay? That's it, that's my thinners. Let's dampen our brushes, dry them off slightly, so it's just damp, little damp, okay? Nothing too wet. I'm going to take some white, and I want to create a very kind of a bright glow in the sky with this one, okay? So I'll take some white with Naples yellow. Allow that turpentine now and that mix to come run through it, make it nice and creamy, okay? Push that out of your brush, push it right out, look, it'll get nice and creamy, see that? Nice and creamy, but not too runny. We don't want this too watery at all. So just keep adding a little more and more paint if you feel you need to thicken it up slightly. Now into those two colours, I'm going to take a tiny hint of magenta. And that should give me a very bright, I won't say a pinky glow, it's very bright whitey kind of a glow in the sky. There's kind of, let's imagine it's a cloudy day, right? But the sun is kind of coming through and it's creating this wonderful kind of glow up in the sky. I want to try and create that. Now you might not be able to see that. It's a very bright whitey, it's kind of a warm white, let's say, okay? To avoid any confusion, it's a warm white. I'm going to put that across my sky, everywhere, all the way across, nice and creamy. Get all that paint out of your brush. And I just want to create a thin layer across my sky. Now I need to mix a little bit more Naples yellow, more white. Even just those two colours on their own would make a lovely glow as well. Go around my mountains like that, all the way up. Now, let's fill this in. So now I have just a nice thin coat on my bright sky. Okay, we don't need to do too much to this sky because we have a lot going on in the landscape below. So we don't need too much in the sky. Now I do want to make it feel like it's a little bit cloudy. So I'm going to take a little hint of lamp black. And to keep it nice and kind of warm, a little hint of magenta. So now we have this kind of pinky grey. Okay? Now if you feel it's a little bit too pinky perhaps, you could take a hint of burnt umber, and that will just tone it down slightly and make it more of a warm grey. Now let me just check this first. All right, that's not bad. I might into that take a hint of phaylo blue. Just a hint. I want to make that slightly cooler, just slightly, okay? Now I'm going to just pop that in here and there. And I really want to do this landscape justice, okay? I really want to make it nice. So I want to really take my time. I want to get a really nice sky in this. I'm just going to pop a little touch of grey cloud in here and there. Particularly up on top. Let's just pop a little bit of that across. So the idea is, we know it's a cloudy day, but it's a very bright kind of a sky at the same time. Does that make sense? It's one of those kind of days. There's a lot of sunlight there in the sky, but there's also a lot of cloud. So I want to capture that kind of feeling, that bright sky feeling. Not too grey, not too kind of dull, but just a very subtle cloudy sky. I'm going to just soften all of these right across now and create just some nice little clouds up in the sky. See what I mean? I'm just swinging my brush around in little circles, softening that little bit of grey through here and there, but I'm not kind of softening it right through completely. Do you understand what I mean? I'm still keeping the shapes of the clouds a little bit. Now I don't know if you can see that on camera because it's very bright here in the studio. Don't know if you can kind of make out. Let me just stand up and check. Yeah, you see what I mean? It's a very kind of bright sky. Very bright. Okay, moving on to, now you could, if you wanted to, put a little bit of white in there perhaps, just to, you know, make some brighter clouds. Let's pop in a little bit of white. Let's just pop a little touch of white in here and there. Look, just to suggest one or two kind of puffy, whitish clouds. And they're just sort of flicking around here and there up in the sky. No, we don't have to go absolutely crazy with all of this. I suppose let's just add a touch of light in the sky. I'm just dancing around on the canvas, you see that? Dancing around. There we go. Just a little touch of lightness up in the sky. And let's put our brushes down. Okay, we're finished with this brush. I'm going to move on next to a smaller brush. It's just a very rough brush, okay? I like to use very old brushes sometimes. Sometimes they're the best brushes you can use for painting trees and bushes and rough mountains, that kind of thing. So what I have is a number 8, a flat, a soft synthetic mix. Very soft. You see this little hill we have in the distance? I can see a lot of pink in that. So I'm going to just take my time now and do this nice. Let's create first a soft, distant colour. Let's take some phthalo blue. We'll take some white. I'm going to take a little magenta and a little black, okay? I first want to create a nice soft colour. Now let's take a little crimson actually. And what we want to try and do is create some distance and depth in the mountains off in the distance. So I'm using this nice mauvey kind of colour just to create that distance and depth first. Then I'll add colour to this. Does that make sense? Let me try it. Okay? Just take a look at that now. You can see it's a very kind of a soft mauve, isn't it? I might warm it ever so slightly with a little crimson. Okay, I'm good with that. I'm going to just pop that hill in, off in the distance. I'll leave my tree. I don't want to disturb that lovely tree. And just roughly, there we go. Pop that in. Now, that's my distant colour done. I'm going to now take some white, some Naples yellow, and a little magenta. And you see, these lovely soft ones over here, they almost disappear into the sky, don't they? And again, look, I'm going to make this my own. I don't want to copy all the colours too much. I don't want to make it like a photograph, to be quite honest. I want to just make it lovely and colourful. I want lots and lots of colour in this. So I have my kind of soft colour, and I'm now going to start warming the colours slightly. Magenta and a little burnt umber. And a touch of black. Okay? It's a very sort of a browny colour. I'm going to just start popping some of that colour in towards the end, softening it across. Now you see what I'm doing? I'm softening the brush. I'm softening the paint in with the tip of my brush in little circles. See that? This is really the undercoat colour. I'm then going to start popping some trees and stuff like that in as well. Okay, now I am going to soften that right out. I get my soft brush, I'm going to soften that right back into the sky. I want to create some nice distance in this. Get rid of that completely, you see that? Now it's softened right into the sky, hasn't it? Okay, I'm going to start adding some darker colours and creating some little trees in this hill, because I can see lots of little trees. These hills really are just full of trees, and I want to create that effect, if you understand. Lamp black, I'll try some cerulean blue, and I'm going to try some magenta. And I'm adding magenta almost to every mix because I want to keep that pinkish sort of distant colour. Do you understand what I mean? Let's take a tiny hint of cadmium yellow in that. The reason is just to make it that muddy greeny kind of colour, just give the illusion of some trees. And simply, using the corner of our brush, I'm going to just start dabbing, 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 okay? All over this. Now you can even go up to the edges if you like and create little rows of trees. The idea really is just to create a texture, a kind of a texture feeling, and a feeling of sort of a tree type of surface, okay? So you can see I'm just kind of dabbing my brush now, going around in little circles, creating that feeling of trees up in the distance. Let's go down here and kind of wiggle it out, leave it disappear out. Okay, now I hope you can see that. You can see what I mean, just that sort of feeling of a tree mountain covered in trees. Take a touch of yellow, and I just want to add a touch of a greeny hue to some of these. Maybe into burnt umber. You can see what I'm doing as I'm going along. I'm just picking up tiny touches of colour as I go. Now I'm going to start darkening this as it comes down towards the bottom, okay? I'm taking some phaylo blue with a touch of burnt umber, and that will give me a dark, rich, bluey kind of green. Maybe a hint of crimson as well. As it comes down, I'm going to start darkening the trees, okay, towards the bottom, because they always tend to get darker as they come down the mountain. By leaving this nice and bright, we're creating some distance going up the hill. Does that make sense? Okay. No, I'll leave it at that. One thing I will do is just put this brush down for a moment. I'm going to get a smaller brush, small clean flat brush, and I'm going to just create a nice warm colour higher up. Some magenta and naples yellow, maybe a little white. I just want to add a touch of this colour in up in the distance up there. You can see that beautiful warm colour far, far up. Just like a hint of land up there. While I have this colour on my brush, I'm also going to use it to add a little bit of highlight on some of these trees types here. Just kind of a little bit of light catching some of the trees here and there. And you can see I've sort of roughed up the edge a little bit as well. You see, these trees are so far away, you're not really going to make out any detail on them. You know what I mean? But I would like to just suggest a tiny bit of light here and there, just catching some of the trees. Now, I think that's fine. That'll do me fine. That's one mountain finished. Okay, what I will do actually is take a little bit of this light blue and just pop a little touch of that around one or two just here. Just adding a little touch of highlight in the darker side. Okay, now that's fine. We are done with that. Next we have this lovely hill here. I'll go back to my rough brush just for filling in. I'm going to make a nice dark colour for this. I'll take some cadmium yellow, some phaylo blue. You can see that gives us a very rich green, doesn't it? Then take some magenta. That gives us a nice muddy green. It's kind of a warm, muddy sort of a green. Yeah, you see what I mean? A nice muddy green. Again, yellow, blue. Slightly thicker mixes for this. For me, I find the trick with oil painting is, when doing a landscape like this, is to put on these colours quite thin and then add thicker colours on top. That allows the top layers to stick better because you're still allowing the canvas to come through and grab the paint. If I put on very thick paint on this, when I do my trees, there'll be nothing to stick to, nothing to grab onto. So I always use thin layers like this just to fill in, and then put on thicker paint for your highlights and shadows and all that kind of stuff. That seems to work for me. Now, a bit of brown there. You can see I'm just filling all this in, just roughly. Now, I'll start putting in some darker shades. Some black, some yellow. Even though it's a warm landscape, there are still lots of darks in this, rich darks. I'm going to pop some rich darks in, maybe a touch of cerulean blue, just to keep it on the green side. So now you can see what I'm doing. I'm just introducing some darker shades on top of that, softening it in as it comes down the hill. You see that? Slightly darker shades. And what I'll do is, perhaps just along the edge, soften that in, okay? Then I'm going back to my flat brush. And you can see this beautiful little tiny piece of trees that we have sticking up. I'm going to pop some of those in. I'll use some magenta, mix it into that green, so you have a nice pinky kind of a brown colour. And I'm simply going to just dab upwards like this, look. Create a little line of lovely trees up there in the distance, you see that? And then just soften that down. Creating just a little ridge of trees. Okay, just like that. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect at all. You're just creating an impression, that's all. And I can even use my brush hand side, look, little flat side of my brush. Just pop a few in, just here and there. Just to create a ridge of pointy trees, that's all. Okay. Now, we just use this to pop in a few darks, here and there, look. This is my base. I'll be putting nice bright greens on top of this in a moment. So it's really just to create a few little dark contrasts here and there. Pop that in. You can use a fan brush for this as well if you like. Fan brush would be absolutely fine for this. I just prefer sometimes to use a flat normal brush. It just gives you a more random kind of effect. Okay, you can move the brush around and create different shapes. Now we have a nice little row of trees off in that distance there, don't we? Let's start adding some nice lighter greens to all of this. I think I'll try the same brush actually. It's these flat brushes are quite nice. Let's get some cerulean blue, Naples yellow, little cadmium yellow. I don't want to go too bright with this now too early on, okay? I can still see they're warm. It's kind of a pinkish colour. Let's take some magenta into that greeny colour we have. And then some more Naples yellow. It kind of starts off with a pinky hue, but it goes into a kind of a green, doesn't it? So let's try this. Let's try the brush. Let's just see what we can do with this brush for now, okay? Let's try the brush first on edge, just at the corner. I'm just using the corner of the brush, creating some little light spots here and there. And for me, what I find when doing this is creating little clumps rather than just going all over the place like this, which looks very uneven. Well, not uneven, it just looks very random. I find creating little clumps of lights here and there gives you the best effect. It gives a more natural effect, I find. Let me take a bit of cadmium yellow into that. Just with the corner of the brush. And allowing it to kind of then soften back into the darker area. So I kind of create a clump like this, but then I'll soften it all back into the darker paint. Just dabbing very lightly, very gently. I'm just creating some little highlights on some trees, that's all. Little rows of trees. And it's just about an impression, okay? When you're painting like this, you know, what I would say to you is don't sit too close because you're focusing too much on small areas. But also try to just remember it's an impression of trees. You're not painting individual actual little trees, okay? Because some people get carried away with that and they try to concentrate on every individual little tree, and it's just too time consuming. I couldn't. But I just want to create a nice little impression of rows of little bunches and clumps of trees going off up into the hill. That's all, okay? Nice simple little rows of trees. Now, let me stand back and take a quick look. Do you see? Now it's just a nice little impression, isn't it? Just some lights. I'm going to go now with a more of a green, okay? Take some cadmium yellow, cerulean blue, and a little white. I just want to add a little layer of a nice green onto those. Just here and there, look. One or two little rows of a nice green. And you can see again, just the corner of the brush. So that's why I prefer to put a darker colour on underneath. So a dark colour, and then you can put on your lights over that. Just makes it much easier. Okay, now I'm going to leave that, that's fine I think. The next thing I'm going to do is, with the same brush, I'm going to take some black and cadmium yellow. I have this very rich dark green here now, okay? And I'm going to simply create a line of these little trees. I can see a lovely row of these trees just going across here and there. Now you might not be able to see this, okay? But I always put on a darker shade first. Then I make a lighter shade. Cadmium yellow, little cerulean blue, touch of white. Let's get a nice bright green, but a soft green at the same time, okay? And I'm just going to simply add a little highlight to the corners of some of these. And what that does then is it separates these trees from the mountain in the back. Okay? You can kind of begin to see it. Okay? Just a small little bit. Right, to get move on to all this lovely green area here. I'm going to just fill this in first with a nice dark green, okay? Lamp black and cadmium yellow. And I can see this is kind of beginning to get more warm. So we have a cool colour in the middle here just to push that away off. Nice warm, rich colours coming down. Let's add a nice amount of thinners into this as well, yes? Black, cadmium yellow, and I think just a hint of burnt umber just to warm it up slightly. I'm going to fill this in. And there's no particular direction with all of this now. It's just really a base colour. It's just to cover the canvas, the white of the canvas. That's all I'm doing. I'll use a slightly bluer colour for the background there, way off, just to give us a bit of distance. Take a hint of Naples yellow. I'm just going to soften that back into the hill, okay? So I want this lovely effect where it's just kind of disappearing right off into the distance. And you can't really see where the trees begin. Does that make sense? So just leave it kind of disappear up into the hill, way, way off. Now, I'm just going to grab some Naples yellow. Naples yellow is very important on my palette, because it allows you to create wonderful distant colours. Dab, 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 just to create some movement off there in the distance, okay? Now, let's go back to our main colour. Cadmium yellow, little black, and some burnt umber. Come over here to this tree. I'll stop where this bright green is in the foreground here, okay? I'll just stop there. Let's just fill that right in, right across. And soften some of these in. Because next we're going to have beautiful light colours. Alright, now I may take a little black and just pop a little bit of a black through here and there. Because I can see some bushes there with very, very dark shadows on one side. So just like that, pop a little bit of darker colour in here and there. That's that one done. Let's now start putting some lovely trees in there. I know now this looks very, very dark at the moment. It really does. But I'm going to start lightening all of this. I find this is the easiest way to paint little bushes and trees like this. A dark colour first and then a light colour. Let's start putting in some trees. I start with the distant ones. I'll take some Naples yellow, some cadmium yellow, and a little cerulean blue. Okay? Cerulean just helps keep it green, but soft at the same time. Little touch more blue. And a hint of magenta. You see, that was too much magenta. You see how strong that magenta is if you're not careful? It gets really strong. Okay, I have a nice soft blue colour. I'm going to try this brush first. If this doesn't work, I think I'll move on to my previous brush, okay? Yeah, you see that brush now is just not kind of doing it for me. So I'm going to move on to my other brush. My more flat one, but it's not completely flat. You see the way it's just slightly opened. That's the type of effect I want with my brush. Slightly opened. So it allows you then to create more of a, you see, a more unique form. Something that just kind of holds its shape. Couple of bushes just off in the distance up there. Now I'll start adding a bit more yellow to this, I think. Make it a bit more on the green side. Now, more cadmium yellow, a little burnt umber. That will give us a nice warm green, kind of an olive green. And I know this probably looks very random at the moment now, but when I start putting on my highlights very shortly, this is really going to come to life. Okay? Just bear with me. Just going along, popping my greens in. Cadmium yellow, a little black. Lots of just kind of big bushes. Now, as they come towards you, they're getting bigger and bigger, okay? The bushes. But I need to build them up gradually. I can't just go right in with very bright highlights. I need to build them up gradually. So I'm just taking my time. And as they come closer to you, you can start using a slightly bigger brush. Now, let me find a nice brush for trees. Okay. No, I think I found just a brush, a little worn flat brush. We dampen that. Now I'm going to start going nice and bright. Lots of cadmium yellow, a little touch of crimson. That's going to give us a nice warm colour. Okay, now let's try this and see what happens. We have a nice big one here, don't we? We have a nice little one here. So I'm just picking out the edges of some of these bushes, just going along the field, you see that? And softening them in. I will have a brighter colour again after this. This will be sort of, let's call it the middle shade. Catching the highlights, you see what I mean? A couple of small ones. A couple of big ones. Getting this nice big one in here. Cadmium yellow, Naples yellow. A little touch of crimson, just to keep it warm, I think really helps. Give it that nice warm colour. Now, I'm just going on the right-hand side, you see that? Softening it back. That's giving me the highlight on the right-hand side of the bush. Now I am going to add a little bit of dark colour into those as well. A little bit of really strong shadow. Okay, clean that brush. Let's take some very dark colour. Some black and a little phaylo blue. With that very strong colour, I'm just going to start at the bottom and work my shadows in. I feel just to make them more pronounced, a little bit of a stronger shadow just at the back end here, you see that? I think that makes a difference, doesn't it? Okay. So then I'm going to put some nice bright highlights on all of this. And this is where it really kind of come to life now. Let's try it. Cadmium yellow, lots of thick paint. A little crimson again. And let's get a bit of white. Very bright highlight colour. Now, may look a little warm for me. I'm just going to take a touch of phthalo blue, or a touch of cerulean in that. I want this nice bright green, okay? And I'm going to start on the outside here and start putting in some nice highlight. Look, I'm working it in then to the left. Leave it soften away down into that darker colour. See that? Okay, let's try that again. Let's go for number 2 here. And work it down into your darker shade. I'm getting the paint on the edge of my brush. You see that right on the tip? And I'm using the corner of my brush. Just the corner, you see that? To go along the top and soften it downwards. If you want to create another bush in front of one, all you need to do is take what you have on your brush and go in front of that dark, look. And then leave it kind of disappear down. So now we have another layer of bushes. Let's go over here and pop 1 or 2 on some of these. Create the impression of lots of little bushes way off in that distance. do a couple around here. Okay. I might put one more just in between the two of these here, just to break it up. So now we have some nice little bushes on the left. I'm going to soften with that little bit of colour, just soften this off to create a little light back there. I just wanted to disappear back into that mountain a little bit more, okay? Up into that mountain. There we go. I might even add a little bit of that light colour in the distance as well, just to show some trees going off into the distance. There we are. Let's put this very bright colour in down here, and I think I might call that part 1 finished. So I start off with a medium shade first for this, okay? I'm going to take some cadmium yellow, and I'll take some cerulean blue. Let's try cerulean. We have a very bright colour. That's a little bit bright, I would say. So let's tone that down with a little burnt umber. I'm now just going to fill this in. So again, I'm starting with my medium shade. Very thin, okay? See that? Very thin, almost like a watercolour, really. It's very, very thin. Lots of thinners in this. So don't be shy. Don't be shy with the thinners. Just to cover all of this canvas, all the white. Get rid of all that white canvas. And once we're finished with this colour, I'm going to add some slightly darker colours, okay? And I'll show you why. Now, a bit of a darker shade down here. Alright, now, so we have a nice shade there, okay? Nice green shade. I'm going to start adding some slightly darker colours into this here and there. I'll take some phaylo blue with cadmium yellow. And you can see now I'm making a slightly thicker colour. Some burnt umber. I want to go for kind of a cold green. Not very cold, but slightly cold. I'm going to start just popping this in here and there. Particularly when doing this, I find adding some darker colour as it comes forward, it pushes everything else back. So adding this darker colour down towards the bottom here creates a little bit of distance in the painting. Leave that soften up. There's 2 ways now, well there's 2 or 3 ways that you can finish this, okay? You can use a fan brush to create texture, or you could use a flat brush like this to create texture. I think I might try the fan brush first, just to see how it looks, okay? Now I'm going to start with some lighter colours. I'm going to dampen my fan brush, take some cadmium yellow, put it into this colour here with a little white. Now I'm just going to start with this colour first, just to see what kind of effect it gives us. I'm going to start off up there. Let me just put my hand on the canvas here because it's making an awful racket, banging against my board. So let's try this lighter colour. And you can see the effect now that has. You can swoop it from side to side, or you can do the dabbing technique like I just did. There's lots of different ways you can do grass and stuff like this. I'll use the fan brush for now and then go to my regular flat brush, okay? Now a little thinner is just to thin that slightly. A little white and a little cerulean blue. It could be a nice bright colour. And what I want to do is create the lay of the land, okay? The way it's falling down. So I'm going to go in that direction with my brush. Bringing it down and across, you see? Now you can also use this kind of flicking technique like this, look, to create little bits of grass. So it's hitting and missing some of the bristles on the brush, you see? So that gives you a nice little effect as well. Little grassy area, especially as it comes closer to you. Because if it's so far away, you're not going to see the grass sticking up. But as it comes closer to you, you will start seeing little blades of grass popping up here and there. So just very roughly, look, very roughly, push down and flick it upwards. Okay, a nice kind of a rough, grassy embankment there now, don't we? And I'm going to start adding, for the first time now, some sienna with some cadmium yellow into that. Because we have that colour here, don't we? That very rich colour. So I want to kind of translate some of that colour over to this side as well. Just to sort of help with the composition. So for example, there's a little touch of it back there, isn't there? Look. Pretend there's a little tree back there. And we could put a little touch of it just here and there. It could be little, I don't know, some types of grass that's growing in between. Some little rushes, some weeds, that kind of thing. Just to bring it across just slightly, okay? That's all. Well, that's loads. Next, I'm going to take some very dark colour, some black and some cadmium yellow. Okay, but lots of black in this. And I'm just going to start adding some little bits of dark here and there, just to create a little contrast, okay? Just here and there, look. And we can try some of those down this side as well. And I think one last piece of this is a nice bright. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow with some crimson and plenty of white in that, okay? Then I'm going to just add some nice bright colour, real bright colour to this. Up here especially, look. I want to separate that from the tree above it. So just adding nice bright colour. And you will need a bit of turpentine in this to help it leave your fan brush, okay? Nice little bit. And again, follow the direction of the land. See? It's kind of coming down and out. I just want to create a nice light kind of coming across this grassy area. Nice little bit of a light. And you can see I'm just kind of mixing it all in, making it very sort of rough and very random. Okay, I'm not concentrating on painting individual pieces of grass or anything like that. I'm just being very, very random with the whole thing. A little bit of light across the landscape down here. Perhaps the sun is just breaking through. Okay. Now, you could leave it at that, or you could try and just soften some of it back in. Okay, it's up to yourself. And I'm calling that part 1 finished, my friends. And we can take our time with this in part 2. Now, I might still add a little bit of light up in that hill up there. I'm going to take some of this bright, little bit of cerulean with some white, and just add a little of that highlight up there. Just to create a little more depth on those trees. Just that colour there, you see that kind of purpley colour? Just want to create a little more light on that. Okay, now that's it. Done and dusted, my friends. Part 1 is finished. I will be back very soon with part 2. Let me just turn the camera here for a moment so you can see myself. There we go. Part 1 done. I hope you enjoyed this so far. It's looking well. I'm happy enough with it. Looking forward to starting part 2. I'll change my tissue, change my thinners, give my brushes a bit of a clean, and I'll crack right on to part 2. So I'll have it uploaded very, very soon for you, okay? Not to worry. Have a go. See what you think. Thank you very much. I'll be back very soon. Happy painting, my friends. God bless.